Software engineering is the backbone of the digital age, orchestrating the symphony of code that powers our modern world. At its core, software engineering is a systematic application of engineering principles to the design, development, testing, and maintenance of software. It encompasses a diverse range of methodologies, tools, and practices aimed at delivering high-quality software products efficiently and reliably. One of the fundamental principles of software engineering is abstraction, the ability to manage complexity by breaking down systems into smaller, more manageable components. This allows engineers to focus on solving specific problems without being overwhelmed by the entire system. As technology evolves at the unprecedented pace, so too does the demand for skilled software engineers who can navigate the complexities of designing, developing, and maintaining robust software systems. Scarlett Johansson slams OpenAI for voice likeness. The actress claims raised concerns about the use of actors' voices and images in AI technology as computer-generated content becomes increasingly realistic. Johansson's statement followed OpenAI's announcement to withdraw the voice known as Kai. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman clarified that a different professional actress performed Kai's voice and was not meant to imitate Johansson. He expressed regret for not communicating better and paused the use of Kai's voice out of respect for Johansson. Johansson revealed that Altman had approached her last September with an offer to voice a ChatGPT feature, which she turned down. She stated that the resemblance of Kai's voice to her own shocked and angered her, noting that even her friends and the public found the similarity striking. Google introduces AI overviews to enhance search experience. Google has announced the rollout of AI overviews, previously known as the Search Generative Experience (SGE), marking a significant shift in how users experience search results. The following feature will provide AI-generated summaries at the top of many search results, initially for users in the US and soon globally. Liz Reid, Google's head of search, explained that the advancement simplifies the search process by handling more complex tasks, allowing users to focus on what matters most to them. Despite the extensive integration of AI, only some searches will involve these advanced features. Reid noted that simple searches like navigating a specific website won't benefit from AI and advancements. However, AI can provide comprehensive and detailed responses for more complex queries. Mox launches satellite internet service in Indonesia for healthcare sector. The aim is to bridge the digital divide in a country with over 270 million people spread across 3 time zones. Elon Musk, alongside Indonesian Health Minister Budi Gunadi Sadikin, introduced SpaceX's Starlink satellite internet service to Indonesia's health sector during a launch event on Sunday. Musk, adorned in a traditional green batik shirt, emphasized the potential of Starlink to enhance internet accessibility for millions of Indonesians. The initiative aims to bridge the digital divide in a country with over 270 million people spread across 3 time zones. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're watching Tech Talk on Trust TV. We now have Dennis Akagha joining us virtually in Lagos. You're welcome to the program. All right, let's start by understanding the topic of discussion in simple terms. What is software engineering?
Well, in simple terms, software engineering is the process of building computer applications, building, developing, testing, and then deploying computer applications for the purpose of solving real-world problems. And this is actually what people don't understand, because you don't just build an application just for fun. You build an application which is software programs for to be able to solve real-world applications, and basically that's what software engineering is all about. But building real-world applications, there are some principles and there are some guidelines you need to also put into considerations. And those principles and guidelines have to do with modularity, separation of concerns, and the design. These are principles you need to put into considerations when you're trying to understand what software engineering is all about.
Okay, so can you walk us through your journey in software engineering?
Yeah, it's been a journey and do very worthwhile as well. I've been a software engineer for the past 4 years, over 4 years. Yeah, over 4 years, and I transited from interestingly, I transited from the NGO space into becoming a software engineer, and over the years, I've built quite a number of projects. I've worked on an event planning applications. That was when I was actually working with a UK company based in, yes, a UK company. I was a mobile app developer at the point at that time. So where we worked on an event planning mobile applications. And currently I work with a startup software company based in Lagos. And we've worked on quite a number of projects. One of the projects I worked on is called Community Fund Me. That project, we're trying to see how we could leverage on the disadvantage of GoFundMe for Africans, because Africans don't, as an African, even as a Nigerian, you don't have access to GoFundMe. So you can't raise a campaign if you're based in Nigeria. So we're trying to leverage on that disadvantage when we built a project called Community Fund Me. I've also worked on a project called One Naira, which is a fintech applications. So yeah, so these are actually the project I've worked on, although there are some I can't actually recall at the moment. But so far, so good. The journey had been worthwhile, like I said, and yeah, it's been a journey, very very good journey.
Okay, so you've mentioned a couple of projects you've worked on. What are some common challenges often encountered in software development projects? I'm pretty sure you have challenges that you have, encountered while working on those projects, and how, did you address them?
Yeah, there are challenges, especially when you're working with clients. When you're working with clients, there are a lot of challenges. One of these challenges I always frown at, and it's been challenging. It's this we call unrealistic deadlines. You see, clients want to be able to build a solution within the next 2-3 months. Now, knowing fully well how large this application is, and they tell you, but I need this application in 3 months' time. And you can't actually, you can't actually meet up. So I've worked in a project where we are asked to build a full-fledged application for an international NGO to manage their activities actually, and the deadline was really unrealistic. So this application has 4 rows, so which means we're going to be building four dashboards, and building 4 dashboards, and within 3 months. So and they have just one developer, which is one mobile, one backend developer. We have just one front end developer. Then these are the 2 persons working on the project, me and one other person. And it was actually so difficult for us. So we couldn't actually meet that deadline. So, but after much back and forth, we conducted what we call a thorough project planning negotiation with the stakeholders, because that's actually one way to go about it. You would meet the stakeholders and make them understand how unrealistic their demands are. So we make them understand how unrealistic their demands are. Maybe we could actually come to a compromise and say, okay, we can actually give it to you, let's say in 4 months' time, and we'll let them know. If we give it to you in 3 months' time, we'll let them know the challenges, because of course, software, we're not just building software, it needs to go to quality assurance. So quality assurance, we need to test it on the field, we need to do manual testing. So we give them what it means for us to build an application within 3 months and for us to build it in 6 months' time. So we're able to solve that problem. So another challenge we had that I've been having when it comes to building project is I think it's called communication. So yeah, this is the thing most people don't understand. So when you talk of communication, there's a whole lot of things that goes into it. So you need to be able to communicate with the stakeholders. You need to be able to communicate with your team. And if you don't have that skill, if you have this poor background in communicating, because we tell people, even though you want to build a career as a software engineer, you should also build a career in communication. So because you should be able to communicate with your team member and be able to communicate with with your stakeholders. So so one way we could be able to solve that problem, or we are able to solve that problem, from my experience, so we have what they call project management tools. So with the project management tools, you'll be able to communicate with your team, you organize stand-ups, you organize, so you just actually organize things. You'll be able to come together with your team and be able to implement such projects.
Okay, now talking about industry best practices and standards, how do you ensure that software development processes adhere to these, best practices and standards?
There's a lot involved when it comes to adhering to best practices and standards. I may not be able to say them from the top of my head, but one thing we should actually understand is software engineers should not leave out when it comes to documentation. So if you're building a project, there's what we call documentation. So you document your code, you document your architecture, your architectural designs, you document your everything that has to do with your code base and facilitate knowledge sharing. So these are the things you document, you put in your documentation. So that's one of the best practices. Another thing I consider best practices is code reviews. A lot of organizations don't go through the process of code reviews. Now, I was trained in a situation whereby you don't just write code and ship it for production. No, we don't do it that way. So you write code and ship it for someone who actually review your code. So you have a superior, we call them team lead. So you have a superior who review your code, because by the time you ship your code to production just like that without being reviewed, you might actually end up having problem at the end of the day. So one best practices for building softwares is code review. So organize code review with your team, organize code review with your subordinate team members. Another thing again is I consider best practices is training and education. So a lot of organizations, startups, undermine the importance of training and education. So when you're able to provide training and educational resources for your development team to ensure that they actually understand and then effectively implement when it comes to software engineering altogether. And finally, quality assurance. Quality assurance is another thing we underplay. So a lot of organizations build softwares and they don't test it. You see, go into companies, you build mobile applications, you don't have a way. So a mobile application is supposed to be able to, you test it on the field, you have manual testing, you have a lot of kind of testing that application should go through before it can actually be launched. Yeah.
So in your experience, what are some effective strategies for managing and mitigating software project risks?
Okay, I think I'll consider like the one I just said, which is quality assurance and code review. That's also one way of managing risks and managing and mitigating risks. You don't just build application and ship it out for production. So you should be able to employ the quality assurance person, which is the QA tester. So we have QA tester who do take all the process of doing the testing for the application before they ship it out for production or before it's being launched. Another thing again is a lot of people. Okay, I think another way you manage and mitigate risk is employing agile methodology processes. Yeah. So when the project will have, agile methodology process is actually is a method of employing flexible and interactive approach to software development. So because your project will always be changing, your project will always be changing. So we employ that way, which we call it agile methodology. So wherever your project changes to, your team member will be able to adapt so that it's different from what we call the waterfall. So we'll have the waterfall and we'll have the agile methodology. So when you employ agile methodology in your production process or in your software development process, you'll be able to mitigate most of the software risks involved. Another thing is communication. So stakeholders involvement. So keep stakeholders informed about your potential risks, which is what most people don't do. If you are building an application, you should be able to see the risks. You'll be able to see, and so when you're able to see those risks, that all you need to do do is to communicate them with your stakeholders. I've been in a team where the project manager don't actually know what this project is all about. So he's just building an application from his head, which is actually not the best way to do it. So you need to communicate with your stakeholders, know what exactly they want. So if your stakeholders tell you, hey, I want this to be done this way, I want this feature to be done this way, these are the things we need. You get so they come back to us. Our job, our responsibility is to listen to this project manager, because the project manager is an intermediary between we, the software engineers, and even the stakeholders. So we get to listen to what the project manager. But when the project manager is lacking in that area of communicating with the stakeholder, it becomes a problem. So one way of mitigating that risk is to have one good project manager or good product manager or project manager team that have the ability and that have this communication skill, such that they can communicate what we want to the stakeholders.
Okay, so what skills are required for a successful career in software engineering?
Being a software engineer, the skills required to be a successful software engineer, there are a lot of skills involved. And being a software engineer does not necessarily mean that all you need to know is writing of code. So software engineering is beyond code writing, which means you need to have problem-solving skills. And aside having problem-solving skills, you need to have a good understanding of how database works. So which means you should have good understanding of database, the types of database that are out there and how they work. And you should also be familiar with testing. So like I said earlier, that most organizations build applications and they don't test it. So you should have good understanding of testing your applications. You should have good communication skills. You should have good collaborative skills, because you're not going to be working alone. You're going to be working with a team. So if you're working in a team, you should be able to collaborate effectively. You should be able to communicate effectively, and you should be able to have a good understanding of your project management tools. There are a lot of project management tools out there. So one of the skills of being a successful, building a successful career in software engineering is understanding these project management tools.
So finally, what advice would you give a junior software engineer starting his career in the industry?
Well, one general advice I give to people, especially junior devs, because I've been there. I was once a junior dev, even though sometimes I still regard myself as a junior dev, because there are a lot of things I still need to learn. So one thing is you need to master the basics, have a good understanding of the fundamental concepts. Have a good understanding of the fundamental concept like data structures, algorithms. So these are things you need to understand. Have a good understanding of the basics. Build projects. Software engineer, you don't just become a software engineer overnight. So you need to build projects. So the more you build, the more you learn. The more you build, the more you learn. And be patient and persistent. A lot of people, I've been there, a lot of people, they are not patient enough. So because it's difficult, writing programs is difficult. People are not patient enough. But once you are patient and persistent, so persistent in the sense that you need to give it time. You need to give it time. I tell people, if you stop learning programming, for instance, for 1 day, it leaves you for 5 days. And that's how it means. So if you stop learning if you stop building things or building projects for a day, it leaves you for another 5 days. And, you have to take another, for you to come back, So a lot of people get discouraged. And I tell people, be patient and be persistent. And finally, you need to learn, and learn. So learning is just it's continuously. So you just need to learn.
Well, that's a wrap on the interview segment. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today.
Thank you very much.
We'll go on a quick break, and when we return, the program continues. Please stay with us. Today on Tech Tips, we'll be sharing tips for software engineering. 1. Version control. Use Git for version control to track changes and collaborate effectively with your team. 2. Modularization. Break your code into modular components for better organization, reusability, and maintainability. 3. Code reviews. Regularly conduct code reviews to ensure code quality, catch bugs early, and promote knowledge sharing among team members. 4. Automated testing. Implement automated unit tests, integration tests, and end-to-end tests to verify the functionality of your code and catch regressions. 5. Continuous integration, continuous deployment, CI/CD. Set up CI/CD pipelines to automate the build, test, and deployment processes, ensuring rapid and reliable delivery of software. 6. Documentation. Write clear and comprehensive documentation for your code, APIs, and project architecture to facilitate understanding and usage by other developers. 7. Performance optimization. Profile your code to identify performance, bottlenecks, and optimize critical sections for speed and efficiency. 8. Security. Follow security best practices to protect against common vulnerabilities such as SQL injection, cross-site scripting XSS, and data breaches. And that's a wrap on the program today. You can drop your comments and contributions on all our social media platforms. Don't forget to join in next week, same time, same station, for a fresh edition of the program. My name is Dorcas Yakubu. Goodbye.